Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time joining us, let me introduce myself. My name is Carolina Villalta. I am a nutritionist. I graduated from the University of Costa Rica, where I did my bachelor's program, and now I am in the process of getting my master's program in the University of École de Diététique et Nutrition Humaine in France for sports nutrition. The subject that I wanted to talk about today for this video is all about muscle mass. Why it's important to build muscle mass, what it's good for, who needs to do this, and especially how to get there. So I'm going to try to give you a few steps, the most important tips and everything that you need to know in order to build your muscle mass. So first of all, why is it even important? We tend to think of muscle mass only for bodybuilders, for weightlifting, and for powerlifters, but in reality, muscle mass is extremely important for our daily lives and for our lifelong fitness and health. So we all know about the aesthetic point of view, in which of course it's more aesthetically pleasing to see a body with some muscle mass that's going to look more toned, it's going to look more shaped rather than it all being shabby and shaky. But it's also going to be very important for everyday activities. So for example, if you're doing the groceries and you need to carry all the bags, it's going to be important for that. If you have kids, little children that you need to pick up all the time. If you like to do exercise, so not only cardiovascular, like going out for a run, or sports like soccer and basketball, but also if you do resistance training or weightlifting, having a better muscle mass is going to help you reduce injury, reduce risk for tendons breaking, and a lot of other stuff. Muscle mass is going to be very important for your strength. So the more muscle mass you have, it's usually going to be directly associated with an increase in strength. Finally, muscle mass is going to be really important to decrease risk of many different diseases. It has been seen in many different studies that having a higher muscle mass is going to be inversely associated. So the higher the muscle mass, the lower the risk of a cardiovascular disease. It has better outcomes for cancer, for diabetes, for a bunch of different diseases. Having a good developed muscle mass is going to be a critical factor in metabolic health, in bone strength, in control of body weight, and a ton of different things that will be important to you in your short-term and your long-term health. For these reasons, and the fact that it's so important for everyone, is that we really need to get rid of this idea that muscle mass and building muscle mass is only for bodybuilders or for men who want to look really big and strong. Having a good muscle mass is important for everyone. So who needs to know how to build a muscle mass? Everyone. So this being said, let's get into how to build your body mass and what are the most important tips for you to do so. So step number one, before you even start, you need to pick a process and stick to it. What do I mean by this? Often in the fitness world and in many of my patients, I have seen that when you start a process, you start kind of like not knowing what to do. You just know you want to get healthier, you know you want to look better, but you don't really know what it is that you have to do. So most of the time when I ask the first question, what is your goal? It's like 3 or 4 different objectives. I want to lose fat, I want to gain muscle, I want to look better, and I also want to fix my, my food habits. This isn't wrong. It's good that you have all these goals, and it's essential to give nutrition the importance that it deserves. However, to start, you actually need to choose between building body mass and building muscle or losing fat. I know there is a lot of information out there saying that you can actually do both, that there are some strategies in order to do both of them, but in reality, both processes are very different. They are actually opposite. Building mass, which is also anabolism, is completely the opposite of losing fat, which is catabolism. Your body doesn't really like to multitask. It likes to use all of its energy into one activity. So if you're going to build mass, it's going to need all of the calories. It's going to need an extra amount of calories in your diet in order to build. When you're trying to lose weight or lose fat, it's a completely different story. So your body is going to be in a different state in which you actually have to be in an energy deficit in order for you to catabolize. One thing that your body cannot do is do the same at the same time. Now, I'm not going to say that nobody in any case can do this because there are some rare exceptions, but if you are not a rare exception, usually your body will stick to one of these processes. A fitness journey usually is kind of like a ladder. So you see it, it's not always build mass and lose fat all at once. It's usually build mass, lose fat, build mass, lose fat, build mass, lose fat. And that way, little by little, you will get to your goal. But they are two processes that go on opposite sides, and therefore you have to give each one the time that it needs in order to do it right and then be able to go on to the next one. If your objective isn't clear yet and you're not sure if you want to build mass or you want to lose fat yet, you kind of start doing a little bit all over the place. You start eating a lot, or you start training a lot and you don't eat enough, or you're eating too much and you're doing too much cardio, and it just becomes a mess where you don't really know where you're going. You end up frustrated, you don't see the results, and then that's where we fall off the wagon. So the first thing that you really want to do is make sure which one of the processes you're going to start with, and once you have picked it, stick to it for at least a month, at least 2 months, in order to start seeing results, and then you can go on to the next one. In some cases, there are people that will tell you, I want to build body mass, but they actually still have a high body fat percentage. And so what I tell them is that we can actually start with decreasing your body fat, and that way the muscles that you have already developed, that are already there, will start showing because they were just hiding under a little layer of fat. It's going to be very important for you to start at a point in which you are comfortable with your body fat and with your weight. Once you have decided to go and build your body mass for all of these benefits that I have just mentioned, how do you actually get into it? So the first thing is going to be you have to give your muscle the stimulus it needs in order to break and repair itself. You need to train your muscles heavy and mindfully. Hypertrophy is the process in which your body is rebuilding itself. So if it's not broken, your body is not going to want to fix it because you haven't broken it. I kind of see it. I heard it somewhere. I'm not sure where anymore, but it was a really good metaphor, and it was kind of like, imagine a chair in a bar where there's been a huge fight. They've used the chair to break the windows and it's a mess. The chair has its legs all broken and it's on the floor and it's just dead. Kind of like you feel after the end of a workout. Once the training or the fight has already stopped, everything kind of slows down. So this is kind of when you go back to your house, you lay down on the couch and you sleep. The next day after the fight, somebody picks up the chair, takes the pieces, tapes them together, and puts it back on where it should be and leaves it there to rest for the glue to dry. Only when the glue has dried and the chair has already been for a while resting and it's now okay again, is that someone else is going to be able to sit on that chair, not before. If this happens time and again, and every night there's a chair fight, and the chair is always broken, somebody might think of reinforcing this chair, making it a little stronger, using a better tape, or putting in some nails in to make it stronger, to make it survive what's going to happen to it next. So think of this chair as your muscles. If your muscles see that there's this constant stimulus that is making the fibers in your muscles break, then it's going to say, okay, hey, I need to actually make it stronger because this is going to keep happening. And that is where your muscles decide to become stronger, become bigger, make better connections, and that is where you see your muscle grow. If you're not breaking the chair, then nobody is going to come fix it. Don't fix what isn't broken, right? Therefore, every time you go into the gym, or even if you don't go to the gym, if you're working out from home, make sure to train mindfully. Every time you make a set, make sure that you are feeling that mind to muscle connection and get to the end of the workout feeling really exhausted. So now that you have the training covered, let's look at the nutrition a little bit. So for building mass, you are going to have to eat. And I cannot stress this enough. There are so many people that want to build mass but are afraid of carbs, are afraid of calories, and are afraid of getting fat. If you have a good nutrition plan, you shouldn't gain fat, or you shouldn't gain a lot of fat in any case. In order for you to build a pound or a half a kilo of muscle mass, you actually have to have an excess of calories, around 2,600 calories per week in order for this to happen. But for you to gain a pound or the same amount of fat, you need to have an excess of 3,500 calories. So yes, if you go all out on your nutrition and you start eating whatever is on the table and whatever when you're on restaurant because you're bulking, and yes, I am guilty of doing this sometimes, that because you're bulking, you can eat whatever you want. That's really not how you should do it. You really have to think about how many calories you're giving your body so that it's in that state of excess in which it can use those extra calories to go to the building of the muscle mass that you need, but not too much that is going to say, okay, so my muscles are fine, they are taken care of. Now what do we do with all these extra calories? Let's put them in the storages of fat. And that's what we're not looking for. That's what we're trying to avoid. So you do have to eat more, you have to eat in excess, but not so much that you are going to start storing fat. A nice way to do it, kind of empirically, of course, always it's going to be best for you to get a personalized nutrition program that goes with you, with your objectives, and everything, your habits and all of that. But if you want to do it kind of empirically, a good formula is taking your body weight in pounds. So if you have kilos, to get pounds, you multiply by 2.2. So for example, I'm 55 kilos, by 2.2, I get 122 pounds. And this number I'm going to multiply by 18, 19, or 20, depending on my body type. I will get more into this another time, but basically you can be either an ectomorph, a mesomorph, or an endomorph, meaning how fast you gain weight. The ectomorph is mostly the slim kind of person. I see it here in Europe a lot. It's kind of like the person that's skinny, it's more difficult for them to gain fat and muscle. They eat a lot, usually they have their metabolism really high. This is the person that's going to multiply by 20. The mesomorph and the endomorph are usually more prone to gaining weight, that being fat or muscle. So in these cases, you can pick between 18 or 19 to multiply your body weight with. So for the sake of the example, if I'm 122 pounds, I multiply by 19 because I'm a mesomorph, and I get around 2,400 calories. And this is the amount of calories that I have to be eating daily in order for me to build body mass. In regards to the macros, which are going to be completely essential in this process, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I don't want to say there's a formula for all of you because you know very well that I am an advocate for personalization and that everything is different for everyone. But in the cases that you want to try to do this on your own at first and then get the advice of an expert in nutrition, you can start off by a 40-30-30 distribution, 40 being carbs, 30 being protein, and 30 being fat. Again, this can go up and down. It's kind of like just a general rule, and depending on your tolerance of carbs, on your activity rate, on your metabolism, on your daily life, and on your habits, these percentages can change. Why so much carbs? Now, most of you know already the importance of protein, and of course, it's the building blocks of the muscle mass. However, why is carbs important? And it's because it's the fuel, it's the primary fuel source in your body. If you do not have enough carbs, your body is going to take glycogen, which is the storage form of carbs in your muscles, and sometimes even the same muscles, it's going to break them down in order to use them for energy. And if you're training as hard as you should in order to build body mass, then it's going to be kind of like you're going nowhere because you're not eating enough, so you are taking all of the muscle mass that you are creating and using it to recreate your muscles. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle. You absolutely need to have the right amount of carbohydrates in your diet together with the right amounts of protein in order to be able to build mass. Now, when you're in this process, you are probably going to see that you are going to start gaining weight, but you have to be clear and remember point number one, which was make sure of what process you are going into and stick to it. So if you are in this to build body mass, you are going to gain weight. Yes, because your muscle mass is heavy. And if you gain muscle mass, you're going to gain weight, but also because with every gram of carbs that you're eating, which are completely essential, as we just said, you are also going to bring in water. Actually, with every gram of carbohydrate that you eat, you are usually taking in 4 grams, around 4 grams of water with it as well. So you might be gaining a bit of water weight as well. And this is also why it's very important to tweak the amount of carbohydrates that you are eating in your diet. Because for some people, 40% will be just right. For some people, it will be too much and they will start looking watery or bulky. Or for some cases, it might not be enough. For some people, they are very active during the day and they need a lot more, maybe 50, maybe 60%, because they're real athletes and they need that for their energy. But it is something to keep in mind that when you go into this process, you are probably going to gain weight. Some of it is going to be muscle, some of it is going to be water weight, and some of it is going to be body fat. That is why it's so important for you to keep track of where you are at and of your progress. And of course, one of the most essential tips that frequently gets forgotten, and it is as essential as eating right and training right, is going to be rest, recover. You need to be getting at least 7-8 hours of good quality sleep in order for your body to be able to say, okay, now we are in an anabolic process. Now we are not in the bar fight anymore. Now we can look at the pieces that are left and start reassembling them and trying to put them all back together. So yes, your night sleep is absolutely essential, but also take your rest days. So there are many different strategies on how to build your body mass, and for that I would rather you go to your coach and see what's the best strategy for you. But in all scenarios, you do have to make sure that you're giving your muscles the amount of time necessary for them to recover. So those are pretty much the 3 main things that you need to be doing, the 3 essential factors in order to be able to build your body mass. Make sure you are training mindfully and heavy, that your nutrition is on point, and that you are recovering. And of course, be very patient and be very disciplined. Building body mass is not simple. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. It might even be harder, in my opinion, than losing fat. Because losing fat, you might see the results in a week, in 2 weeks, you might already feel better. Some things might start looking better. But for building mass, you might think that it's been years and you're exactly at the same spot, and the results are not as obvious. So just make sure that when you've made the decision to start this process, then start and don't stop. Don't let it whine off after a few weeks, because then you're on the wagon on and off. You're on the little roller coaster where you're building mass, you're losing fat, you're not really sure which one you're doing, and so you get nowhere. So these were really the most important points I wanted to touch on. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you can get some of these recommendations and implement them into your daily life. And if you have any questions, any comments, let me know. Thank you again so much for being here, for watching this video. Don't forget to like it, to share it with your friends, for anyone that might find it useful. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.